Good day, I am Charlene Roble. Meet together with my co-reporter Jetro Adag is going to report all about the Section 2 Filipino grievances against Governor Wood. This is also an example of a joint resolution reflecting legislators' displeasure with Governor Wood's handling of government issues. It also known as a protest letter or a petition letter. Gregorio Side. Education. Studied in University of the Philippines, MA in 1931, and University of Santo Tomas, BA and a PhD of Philosophy in 1934. Background of the author: Filipino historian, author, politician from town of Pagsanghan, Laguna, born on May 25, 1907, died on October 31, 1988. His contribution to the grand scheme of Philippine history. This document is a form of protest by Zaido rights for the constitutional representatives of the Filipino people. This document also served as an impeachment request for Governor Wood. This document was also approved by the Commission on Independence on November 17, 1926, and it also appointed on October 14, 1921 until August 7, 1927. A year after this document was approved, Governor Leonard Wood died due to surgery failure. Governor Wood was also one of the founders of the International Associations of Historians of Asia or IAHAA and president of the Philippine Historical Association for the 3 terms. As a politician, he served as the mayor of his hometown of the Pagsanghan from 1971 to 1975. Major General Leonard Wood also arrived in the Philippine Islands in 1903 after his service in Cuba. He was appointed governor of the Mero province comprising the Southern Islands and Mindanao. Aside from being the head of the civil government, he is also responsible for 5 districts and the commanding general of the troops in the Department of Mindanao and Sulu as well. General Wood was asked what he thinks would happen if he left. His response was strife, disorder, bloodshed. They might not come instantly, but they would come soon. Some horrors whom we have disarmed and who want us to stay and protect them. And Christian Filipinos would fight. Industry, trade, and credit would be ruined with the inevitable concomitants of idleness, hunger, and anarchy. More than a quarter of century has elapsed since the Philippines came under the American flag, an emblem of freedom, not of subjugation, and a symbol of altruism, not of selfishness or greed. American sovereignty was implanted in our country with the avowed purpose of training in us in the art of self-government and granting us independence. So our good, not here gain, was to be America's aim. Our country was committed to her interest to be conserved and developed for the benefit of our people. And also, believing in the sincerity of America's purpose, the Filipinos applied themselves to the task of the meeting the conditions exacted of them, anxiously awaiting the day when America would honor her promise. So, as what I said earlier, that America promised us, they promised that our country would be conserved and developed for the benefit of people, and Filipinos were patient and diligent to the task of meeting the conditions given to them because they trust in the Americans. So Calvin Coolidge is the president of the USA advised Congress of America to fulfill their promise since the goal has been reached loyalty from Philippines. So Major General Leonard Wood was sent to Philippines as Governor General. Expectation. Cognizant of General Wood's participation in the liberation of Cuba, Filipinos expected that spirit of cooperation would be maintained. Political emancipation would be complete. Reality. There was a train of usurpation and arbitrary acts resulted in curtailment of our autonomy and destruction of our constitutional system, reversal of America's Philippine policy.
Arbitrary acts means when used in reference to a judge ruling in a court case. Arbitrary means based on individual discretion rather than a fair application of the law. For example, finding someone guilty of a crime simply because they have a beard would be an arbitrary decision. Arbitrary acts of Governor Wood. The President of USA sent Governor Wood to the Philippines to rule out and help, but also explains decisions made or actions taken that are necessarily based on established facts, but instead based in large part on opinions. Arbitrary decisions do not reflect accepted legal precedents, nor are they made with regards to existing facts or established circumstances, just like Wood. Number 1. Governor Wood has refused his assent to laws which were the most wholesome and necessary heads of department. It explains that he has refused his approval to laws which is very necessary. Governor Wood has set at naught both the legal authority and responsibility for the Philippine heads of departments. 3. Governor Wood has substituted his constitutional advisors for a group of military attaches without legal standing in the government and not responsible to the people. It explains that he substituted constitutional advisors to a group of military without a legal process. Number 4. He has reversed the policy of Filipinizing the service of the government by appointing Americans even when Filipinos of proven capacity were available. It explains that instead of Filipinos, he chose to appoint Americans even though there are Filipinos with such capacity. Number 5. He has obstructed the carrying out of national economic policies duty adopted by the legislature merely because they are in conflict with his personal views. Number 6. He has rendered merely perfunctory the power of the legislature to pass the annual appropriation law by reviving items in the law of preceding year after vetoing the corresponding items of the current appropriation act in the flagrant violation for organic law. Number 7. Governor Wood has made appointments to positions and authorized the payment of salaries. Therefore, after having vetoed the appropriations of such salaries. Number 8. Governor Wood has used certain public funds to grant additional compensation to public officials in clear violation law. Number 9. Governor Wood has arrogated unto himself the right of exercising the powers granted by law to the Emergency Board, after abolishing said board on the ground that its powers involve an unlawful delegation of legislative authority. Governor Wood has unduly interfered in the administration of justice. Number 11. He has refused to obtain the advice of the Senate in making appointments where such advice is required by the Organic Act. Governor Wood has refused to submit the Senate appointment for vacancies occurring during the recess of the legislature in contravention of the Organic Act. Number 13. He has continued in office nominees whose appointments has been rejected by the Senate. Governor Wood has absorbed legislative powers by imposing condition on legislative measures approved by him. Number 15. Governor Wood has in the administration of affairs in Mindanao brought about a condition which has given rise to discord and dissension between certain groups of Christian and Mohammedan Filipinos. Number 16. He has by his policies created strained relations between resident Americans and Filipinos. Number 17. Governor Wood has endeavored, on the pretext of getting the government out of business, to dispose of all the companies capitalized by the government worth many millions of the people's money to powerful America interests. Number 18. He has sanctioned the campaign of insidious propaganda in the United States against Filipino people and their aspirations. Number 19. He has attempted to close the Philippine National Bank, so necessary to the economic development of the country. Number 20. Governor Wood has adopted the practice of intervening in and controlling directly, to its minute details, the affairs of the Philippine government, both insular and local, in violation of self-government. Number 21. He has insistently sought the amendment of our laws approved by the Congress of the United States, which amendment would open up the resources of our country to exploitation by predatory interests. Thank you.
The protest. In the face of this critical situation, we, the constitutional representatives of the Filipino people, meet to deliberate upon the present of difficulties existing in the government of the Philippine Islands and to determine how best to preserve the supremacy and majesty of the laws and to safeguard the right and liberties of our people. Having faith in the sense of justice of the people of the United States and inspired by her patriotic example in the early days of his history, do hereby, in our behalf and in the name of the Filipino people, solemnly and publicly make known our most vigorous protest against the arbitrary acts and usurpations of the present Governor-General of the Philippine Islands, particularly against this in Executive Order number 37.